Hello everyone. This is the last topic for the strategic business analysis and we will discuss about solution evaluation. Okay, so for this lessons, we will discuss the following topics: the purpose of solution evaluation, recommended mindset and evaluation, a plan for evaluation of the solution, determine what to evaluate, when and how to evaluate solution results, evaluate acceptance criteria and address defects, and lastly, evaluate the long-term performance of the solution. And for this lesson, you should be able to discuss the purpose of solution evaluation, determine impact of solution evaluation, and validate solution results. And lastly, investigate business analysis, case, and evaluate solution results. Okay, so let's start with the solution evaluation. So solution evaluation consists of a business analysis activities performed to validate a full solution that is about to be or has already been implemented. Evaluation determines how well a solution meet the business needs expressed by shareholders, including delivering value to the customers. Okay, so some evaluation activities result in a qualitative or coarsely quantitative assessment of a solution. So some of the strategies made for the evaluation is conducting survey or focus groups, and analyzing the results of exploratory testing or functionality, and a lot more techniques. So those techniques will be discussed, included in our discussion. So other evaluation activities involve a more precise, quantitative, explicit measurements. Most of the techniques discussed previously on our previous lesson, and with the additions of the techniques that we are going to discuss, are useful for all kinds of projects and solutions and are compatible with predictive, iterative, and adaptive life cycles. So for the purpose of the solution evaluation activities provide the ability to assess whether or not a solution has achieved the desired business results. Kung na-remember nyo, in the elicitation and analysis, we have mentioned about verification and validation. So that techniques, kasi included pa rin siya syempre in the solution evaluation. So tinitingnan pa rin natin if na-achieve nga ba yung desired goal or yung desired results in implementations of the solution. So evaluation provides input to go or no-go business and technical decisions when releasing an entire solution or a segment of it. So, pwede rin naman kasing after the evaluation, ang decision ng management is no-go. Pwede rin ganon. So, identification and definition of evaluation criteria must also included here as a support of other analysis activities. Evaluation of an implemented solution may also be used to identify new or change requirements, which may lead to solution refinement or new solution. So kapag no-go, it's either na solution should be refined or kaya kailangan mag-draft ng another solution. So what should be the recommended mindset for evaluation? Okay, so first, evaluate early and often. So when evaluation criteria are defined early, they can be applied to a project in progress and provide input into the development of test strategies, test plans, and test cases. So early uses of lightweight evaluation techniques identify which areas of a solution need the most testing. So early articulation of evaluation criteria is an excellent way to specify or confirm both a functional and non-functional requirement. So mas maganda na magkaroon ng evaluation ng mas maaga. The second one is treat requirements analysis, traceability, testing, and evaluation as complementary activities. Of course, yung mga nabanggit naman natin mga techniques in the analysis, yun din yung same or pwede rin gamitan yung mga techniques na yun in traceability and also here in testing and evaluation. So the acceptance criteria na dapat defined in the business plan requirement, should support each other. So together, this establish a mutual agreement between business stakeholders and those responsible for developing the solution for what is required and how to know that the requirements has been met. So kailangan talaga the requirements are all complementary activities. The third one is evaluate with the context of usage and value in mind. Of course, validating a solution is more complex than validating to determine whether individual requirements have been met. So sa validation pa lang, ini-ensure na nito that the solution is working as designed. Diba? But also, kino-confirm din ng validation that it enables the usage and a value that the business expected. And lastly, confirm expected values for software solutions. So for the automated solutions, it is essential to validate functionality that manipulates data by using the solution's data retrieval functionality. Kaya lang, pag minsan, insufficient or yung sufficiency ng solution, kailangan na ma-evaluate din. Paano? By confirming, syempre, confirming that the actual data is accurately stored. Because the data may potentially be retrieved in other ways or kaya gamitin siya syempre ng users and yung users niya in the future. Okay, so these are the recommended mindsets for evaluation. The next one is plan for evaluation of the solution. Undertaking evaluation activities is not a trivial task. It takes time and effort to identify and confirm evaluation criteria. Implement anything necessary for taking measurements that is not already built into the solution or its infrastructure. Take the measurements and report on and analyze the measurements. So these are factors to consider when planning for evaluation activities. First is what project or organizational goal, objective, or risk does this evaluation activity monitor or track or confirm? Okay. Who will cover cost for the time and effort needed to conduct evaluation? Does the solution or its infrastructure have built-in measurement capabilities for the evaluation criteria? Are there already ways to extract measurement data to use in the evaluation? Is the chosen evaluation method effective and relatively inexpensive? And lastly, are there already existing ways to report and publish the results of an evaluation? So these should be considered when planning for evaluation of the solution. Next is to determine what to evaluate. Of course, there are number of factors to think about when identifying evaluation criteria. First of which should consider the business goals and objectives, diba? So, kailangan alam muna natin what is the business goals and objectives. So, business goals and objectives and the priorities enable a project to launch and hopefully result in a solution. Alam naman natin that the business goals and objectives of any organization, it should be stated in a smart way. Okay? So yung measurements, kapag naka-smart yan, alam natin na naka-specified na in the goals and objectives, nagkakaroon na tayo ng clue. Ano yung mga dapat nating i-measure? So with the specified goals and objectives, alam na natin kung ano rin yung dapat nating i-evaluate during the solution process. The next one is consider key performance indicators. Okay, so key performance indicators or KPIs are metrics that are usually defined by an organization's executive. So dapat naka-align syempre ang KPIs na yan with the business goals and objectives. So these indicators can be used to evaluate an organization's progress in achieving its objectives or goals. So usually nakakategorize sa mga KPIs na yan by finance, customer, sales and marketing, or operational process, etc., etc. So the next thing is to consider additional evaluation metrics and evaluation acceptance criteria. So aside from the two na nabanggit natin, yung sa business goals and objectives and also the KPIs, there are other additional metrics and acceptance criteria to consider. So some example of it are the project metrics as input to the evaluation of the solution, or kaya the customer metrics, sales and marketing metrics, operational metrics and assessments, and the functionality. Okay. So the last thing is to confirm that the organization can continue with evaluation. As measurements are identified, review any estimates for the costs of evaluation and update them as needed. So when necessary, i-reconfirm ng organizations or ng department who is in sponsoring the evaluation and who will cover, of course, the cost na pwedeng ma-incurred. When and how to validate the solution results. This one is very important. Of course, kailan nga ba at paano tayo mag-validate ng solution results? For predictive project life cycle, validate the solution at the end. So at the end of the project life cycle, either immediately before release or at an agreed upon time after release. Kapag naman iterative or adaptive project life cycle, validation is performed at the end of every iteration, sprint or release. So when the team provides production-ready functionality for the stakeholders to evaluate. So ano yung mga pwede nating gamitin ng mga techniques? So the following evaluation techniques can be used to evaluate solution results. So first is the surveys and focus groups. So these techniques have been mentioned in the elicitation and analysis, diba? So ginagamit din yan sa elicitation and analysis. So pag sinabi natin survey questionnaires can solicit qualitative or semi-quantitative feedbacks. Or in focus groups naman, it provides an opportunity for individuals to offer thoughts and ideas about the topic in a group setting. So in survey and focus group, both na kumukuha tayo ng comments, feedback, suggestions from the team. Okay. The next is result from exploratory testing and user acceptance testing. So pag sinabi natin exploratory testing, this is unscripted, or ang hinahanap natin is yung meron talagang deep knowledge for the solution or dun sa implementation ng strategies. Okay? Sino yung pinakang merong knowledge about dun sa naging programs or project. Okay? So yan, nag-interview tayo or binavalidate natin ano yung nangyari. Okay? The next one is the results from day in the life or DITL testing. Ay, by the way, yung sa user acceptance testing naman, after na exploratory testing, the user acceptance testing is a formal testing activity which validates that the solution meet the defined acceptance criteria. So, meron yung questionnaire guide given by the evaluator sa user mismo. Kung ano yung kanyang feedbacks with regards to the system or the program. Okay. With regards to DITL naman, DITL testing is a semi-formal activity conducted by someone with an in-depth business knowledge, sometimes used broadly as a semi-scripted form of exploratory testing. So kung si exploratory is unscripted, almost the same naman with the DITL testing. Yun nga lang, si DITL scripted testing naman to. Meron ng guide for the evaluation. The next technique is the results from integration testing. Of course, integration testing is used to validate or evaluate whether a solution does what is expected in the larger context of other ongoing business and systems operations in the organizations. So, ang system testing is a form of verification na pinuprove lang nito na ang solutions na na-develop is pwedeng gamitin with other systems. Okay, yung integration testing, pag minsan ginagamit nila in a same solution environment or kaya naman in an identical solution environment or pwede ring nearly identical to the production environment. Another technique is the expected versus actual results for functionality. So for this criteria, 'di ba, nakaset na agad yung acceptance criteria. Okay? It should be defined firstly para yun din yung babalikan natin kung paano tayo mag-evaluate. Okay? So from expected versus actual. So normally naka-tabular form ito or tabulated form na one column is for the expected result and one column for the actual result. So pinagtatali natin kung ano ang difference ng actual or expected. Kung meron mang difference, syempre dapat gawan siya ng action. We also have the non-functionality. Same din naman ang ginagawa dito, expected versus actual results for non-functional requirements. So the same then, it is a tabular form with expected versus actual results. And then explain din doon bakit hindi na-hit yung expected result. Okay, so the last one is to outcome measurements and financial calculation of the benefits. Okay, so once na-validate na natin or any of these techniques ginamit natin for the validation of the solution results, we evaluate acceptance criteria and address defects. So yun nabanggit ko nga kanina, yung comparisons ng expected versus actual results, syempre meron di ba tong acceptance criteria na siya. So nakaka-identify din or ina-examine yung tolerance range. Ano yung exact numbers? Okay? So kung sa finances, gaya sa financial, every month and every year, monthly and annually, we do the target versus actual reports. Okay, so ang ranges lang na tolerable for the finance and on my experience is just 20%. So pwedeng 20% above and 20% below. So meaning kapag above budgetary requirements yung nangyari, so kapag ganun, dapat 120% lang that is tolerable. Or kaya naman pag below 80% lang. So kapag sobrang layo na nung yung sa tolerable range, then it should be justifiable. Kung hindi, katakot-takot na explanations talaga yung gagawin mo. Or kailangan at the next year, hindi na siya maulit. So there should be a lag ng mga details of tolerance and data na intolerable, tapos kailangan meron siyang solution requirement. So, paano siya i-address? How this defect should be addressed? So, ganun siya. Then, we also have to facilitate the go or no-go decisions. So, syempre, lahat ng details na yon kailangan ma-provide natin yan sa stakeholders. Okay? So, when evaluation takes place prior to the release of a full solution or a segment of a solution, stakeholders need an opportunity to decide whether or not the solution should be released in whole or in part or not released at all. So, ito na yung decision making. So, provided with the data, stakeholders should be provided with access to the summarized evaluation results prior to the meeting. An agreed upon decision model for how to reach a decision should already be in place. So a go permits the release for the solution, and no go either delays or disapproves the release of the solution. So sometimes, yung evaluation results, syempre nagre-reveal yan ng overriding reasons to delay the release. And sometimes, yung evaluation, nagre-reveal din siya ng stopper or hindi na talaga itutuloy. Ito na yung nag-enforce sa management na no-go decision. So such decision can occur in projects that present extreme risks for life or property or large-scale finances. Okay? So kapag gano'n, no-go decisions talaga ang management. And syempre, we obtain sign-off of the solution. A formality of sign-off depends upon the type of project, the type of product, the project life cycle, and corporate and regulatory constraint. So, depende rin sa organizations if there would be a sign-off or formal sign-off. Pag minsan kasi, signatures na lang, hahanapin na lang yung mga top management. Wala na yung formal sign-off. Pero depende syempre. If merong formal sign-off, so this would be the characteristics of assigning of the project with a line of business-wide or enterprise-wide impact, products or errors or failure to achieve tolerances could result in death or an unacceptable level of risk to life, property, or financial solvency. Projects in organizations follow strict predictive life cycles, and heavily regulated industries such as banking and insurance or medical devices, clinically research, or pharmaceutical companies. And so itong mga to, kailangan talaga ng official sign-off of the solution. May formal sign-off. The next thing to consider is to evaluate the long-term performance of the solution. Of course, evaluating long-term performance is part of assessing the business benefits realized by implementing the solution. Long-term performance is a broad concept and applies to the execution or accomplishment of work in any form by people or systems or both. So, pwede natin evaluate through determined metrics. So, when evaluation is planned, the key metrics are identified before evaluation takes place. So, business intelligence, analytics applied to the information captured by the solution may reveal additional metrics. Pero yan, so dapat identified muna yung mga metrics. Next is we obtain metrics measure performance. Realistic planning for evaluation is essential for obtaining metrics to measure performance. It can be costly to obtain metrics when the capability to capture them is not already present in the organization and its infrastructure prior to the release of the solution. The next is we analyze the results. Analysis for long-term performance examines the measurements. We identify stable metrics and metrics that are trending upward or downward and discovers anomalies in the measured values of trends. Kapag alam na yung behavior ng metrics, syempre, we conduct future research and root cause analysis para ma-identify yung problems or baka merong adverse affecting performance. Next is assess limitations of the solution and organization. With analyzed metrics and root causes in hand, many of the same analysis techniques used to understand the problem and organization can be used again to assess the limitations of the solution and the organization. Then we recommend approach to improve solution performance. As with the other aspects of evaluation, the analysis techniques used to propose the initial solution can also be applied to recommended an approach for improving solution performance. The work to implement the recommended approach needs to be prioritized as part of whatever ongoing planning activities the organization uses. Okay, so that's why we have to validate the long-term performance of the solution. Next, solution replacement phase out. So in general, there are 4 strategies for solution replacement phase out. These strategies apply equally well to automated, manual, and mixed solutions. So first, we have the massive one-time cut over prior to installing the replacement and phasing out whatever existed prior to it. Segmented cut over to the replacement prior to phase out of whatever existed prior to it. Segmented cut over implies temporary coexistence of the replacement with whatever is being phased out. Time box coexistence of the replacement and what is being phased out with a final cut over on a specific future date. And permanent coexistence of the old and replacement solutions. So a cost-benefit analysis can be conducted to determine which approach to use. So whether or not a formal cost-benefit analysis is conducted, some sample questions or research that could be undertaken to determine the most appropriate strategy includes what is the operational impact of having two solutions? Are there any customer-facing or marketing conditions that would require all customers to interact with the new solution at the same time? Does the replacement solution involve software? Is it acceptable for some of the customer base to use the previous solution while others use the replacement solution? So no matter what strategy is selected, care should be taken to develop all of the communication and roll out collateral needed to successfully cut over and adapt to a new solution. So these activities include but are not limited to sufficient communication to the stakeholders who will be directly or indirectly impacted by the new solution, completion of required training materials and delivery of training, completion or updated to standard operating procedures and work instructions, purchase, licensing, and installation of any necessary hardware, and third-party software needed to support the solution. Coordination with other activities within the organization to ensure that implementation occurs at a time when the business can accept the changes and the rollout is not in conflict with other in-process programs and project work. And lastly, coordinate to ensure any interruption of business is clearly identified, communicated, and acceptable by the customers. So this ends my lecture, my presentation. If you have any questions or inquiries, kindly post your questions in our Google Classroom or even in our group chat. But before I totally end this video lecture, kindly answer the following questions first. So for this a short quiz, just identify the following statement if it is a true statement or a false statement. Pero ano ang kailangan yung ilagay? Kapag true statement, write 1, and kapag false, 2. If I have 5 questions lang, so in 5 questions, kunwari ang answers nyo lahat is true, then ang dapat nyong i-post sa akin sa Google Classroom is 5, 1. Ganun siya. So, disregard nyo na yung numbering. I just need 1 and 2. So, kung lahat naman ng sagot nyo is false, then 5 dapat na 2 ang i-post nyo sa Google Classroom. Okay? So, let's start for number 1. DIPL testing is an unscripted, free-form validation or evaluation activity conducted by someone with in-depth business or testing knowledge. Answer must be 1 or 2. 1 if true and 2 if false. Number 2. When evaluation criteria are defined early, they can be applied to a project in progress. 3. Some evaluation activities result in a qualitative or coarsely quantitative assessment of a solution. 4. The solution is validated at the end of the project lifecycle, either immediately before release or at an agreed-upon time after release for iterative project lifecycle. And 5. Stakeholders need an opportunity to to decide when solution a go should be released upon evaluation. So, yan, 5 questions only. So, I'll post an activity sa Google Classroom. Doon niyo po ilalagay ang answers niya. Okay? So, thank you so much, everyone. Hope you will learn something from me and see you on your final examination. Bye, everyone.